Hello everybody, welcome to the JavaScript course. In this video, I'm going to discuss the default browser actions. So what does it mean by that? An event may follow other default actions. For example, when we do the right-clicking, we will be able to get a menu called context menu from the action of right-clicking. So it is possible for us to stop these kinds of default actions. There are two ways to do so. The first way is to use return false on the event handler function set up on the HTML file. And the other way is to use the preventDefault function, which is a built-in function in JavaScript. Now, let us see the HTML file first. The HTML file has a number of elements. First, I have a title here, and my HTML file is linked to a CSS file. So the CSS file is called styles.css, okay? And in the body part, I have a number of elements. First, I have a heading here, and after that, I have a division with ID called my area. So for this area, I would like to do the right-clicking action later on. So after this one, I have another division. The division is having an inside division. So the frame here is going to be colored in blue, and the inside division has a lot of words. So you can see that the words are already inside the white part or the inner division, okay? So I have to link my JavaScript file to the HTML file. So my JavaScript file is called myscript.js, which is put in the JS folder. Now let's see the CSS file. The CSS file has a number of things here. My area refers to the green area here, and the frame refers to the blue part on my division, and the text box is just talking about the inner division. So you can see that I use overflow here, which is meaning that the words can be shown continuously with the help of a scroll bar here, okay? So auto here means that if the words are not enough to be shown on my single text box area, I'm able to use my scroll bar to help me do the rest, okay? So let us go to the hierarchy of the files. So the styles.css together with the index.html file are placed at the same level, and the JavaScript file is placed inside the JS folder, okay? Now let us go to the JavaScript file. In order for me to use the strict mode, I have to say use strict on the first line of the JavaScript file. And then let's start the discussion of default browser actions. Actually, there are some events that have default actions. And examples, yes, for example, when we do the right-clicking, I'm able to give a menu to choose some instructions. So when I click on the web page with my right button, I'm able to see this kind of menu. So this menu is called the context menu. So this is known as the default action of my right-clicking action, okay? So another example is that when we click on a hyperlink, the hyperlink would redirect us to a web page. So the opening of a web page is also treated as the default action of clicking on a hyperlink. And another example is that when I press a key, I'm able to show the character on a text box. So the showing of the character is also treated as the default action followed by key pressing, okay? Actually, in JavaScript, we can stop these default actions in some way. It means that we can let JavaScript take full control of the actions arising from the event. So it means that the JavaScript can control the event even though it has some default actions to follow. The first way is like that. We can use return false in the HTML file. So let us see an example. I'm going to show you a situation that stops the default action of using the right button of a mouse. So for example, when I click on the green area with right button, I'm able to see the context menu. So is it possible to stop the context menu from showing up? Yes, it is possible. I can do so on the HTML file. The idea is to use the return false command. Okay, I just say on context menu equals return false, which is a string. Okay, so when I want to click on the division using my right button, I'm able to return false. Return false here means that I'm not able to do the default action. So let us see the result. Save, reload. So when I click on the green area with the right button, you can see that I'm not able to show the context menu any longer. So return false here is a way to stop our default action from the browser. Okay, so we have another way to stop the default action. We can use the preventDefault function in JavaScript. So let us show an example immediately. So suppose I've already picked up the frame, which is the blue area, and I've also picked up the so-called text box by using the getElementById function. So the frame is just the blue area, and the so-called text box is just a division inside my frame. Okay, this division having a lot of words. Okay, so what can I do with these two divisions? Let me show you my way now. So I would like to add two event listeners, respectively, to my frame and my text box. And they are like this. When I do the right-clicking, that means the context menu event, I'm able to call the remind frame function and the remind text box function that I'm going to show immediately. Okay, so the remind text box function is like that. I want to put an event object into the function first, so the event object is able to help me prevent the default action. So when I click the context menu button, that is the right button of the mouse, I'm not able to show the context menu because I can use the preventDefault function. So the event object here is helping me to stop the context menu action. So I'm not able to show the context menu following the right click button. And after that, I can just say don't copy the text. That means in addition to stopping the context menu, I'm also able to add something more. Okay. So the preventDefault function is helping me to stop the ordinary menu. Okay, I don't show that menu. And after that, I can do something more. So I do something else other than showing the ordinary context menu. So this is the first function called remind text box. And let me continue the second function. Okay, so the remind frame function is like this. I put an event object into the function, and the event object is able to help me check that whether I have already got a default action prevented. So this is a Boolean variable called defaultPrevented. If the event is really having a prevention of the default action, then I would just leave the remind frame function. So you can see that the frame is actually outside the text box. So if the text box has already got the preventDefault function activated, the frame would understand the situation because we can see that the frame here is at the upper level of the text box division. So the event happening in the text box division will be bubbled up to the outer division called frame here. So the frame part, which is the blue part, is already able to realize that whether an event inside the inner division is already having the preventDefault function activated. If that's the case, the remind frame function can do nothing. So it can just return nothing to the caller of the remind frame function. Okay. So if that's the case, the frame does nothing. But if it is not the case, that means if the default action in the text box is not ever prevented, then the remind frame function has to do something, which is the else part shown here. I would just say that when I do the right clicking on the frame here, I would just say that I have to prevent the default action. That means I don't show the context menu when I do the right clicking on the blue part. And after that, I would say nothing to copy here. That means in addition to stopping the default action of showing the context menu, I'm also able to show something more. Okay. So the default prevented variable is a Boolean variable, so it can be true or false. If it is true, I don't do anything on the frame part. If it is false, then I can prevent the default action of the right clicking on the frame. Okay. Okay, this is the essence of this part. If a child has prevented the default actions, the parent or the ancestor can act accordingly. So the approach is to make use of the event object, which is a built-in object in JavaScript. So if the event object has already found that the inner division has got the default action prevented, due to bubbling, the outer part, which is called the frame division in my case, can also do something accordingly. So if it is the case, then I don't do anything. I just leave the function. If it is not the case, I can just do the preventDefault function on the frame part, which is the blue part in my web page. Okay, and I can also show something else. So you can see that the parent or the ancestor can act accordingly due to the bubbling effect. So let us see the result of this program. Save. Reload. Okay, so let me try to right-click the text box part. So you can see that I would have don't copy the text here. So you can see that I can prevent the default action by stopping the showing of the context menu. Okay, and I can do something else by giving a warning here. So I click OK. And when I click OK, I'm able to see that the event.defaultPrevented value becomes true because the outer frame part has already received the event object right here. Okay, so if the event object coming from the inner division, which is the text part here, has already stopped the default action, then the remind frame function can just do nothing by returning it to the outside of the caller. Okay, so it means that if the text box has already stopped the default action, the frame part, due to the bubbling effect, can also stop the default action. That means the frame part isn't able to show the context menu again. Okay, and how about the situation when I just click on the frame part without clicking on the word letter C? Okay, you can see that I can show the nothing to copy here. Okay, in this situation, the event object here has never stopped the default action, which would happen in the remind text box function. Okay, so since I haven't clicked on the words, this part will not be called. It means that the default prevented value would become false. If that's the case, I would do the else part. I would stop the default action on the frame. Okay, and in addition, I would say something more to tell people that I cannot do anything to copy this frame. Okay, so you can see that the relationship between the inner division and the outer division can be handled pretty easily by using the preventDefaulted Boolean variable. If the default prevented variable becomes true, I can do something. If it is false, I can do something else. So I can handle the inner division pretty easily due to the bubbling. Okay. So this video has already talked about the ways to stop the default browser actions. The first way is to use the return false statement on the HTML file directly, like this one. And the other way is to use the preventDefault function. Okay, so I just pick up a certain element and then I can make a function here, and then I just say event.preventDefault, so that the event object here is able to help me stop the default action. Okay. And for this part, we can use the default prevented variable to see whether an inner division has done the prevention of the default action or not. So if the default action is already prevented in the inner part of the divisions, then I can do something. I just return the function to the outside. That means I just do nothing in my case. Or if the default prevented variable is false, that means I haven't done any default action in the inner part, then I can do something else. This is the end of the video. If you have any questions about my video, please leave your questions on the comment section below the video. If you like this video, please give me a like and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching.